welcome back. So we're going to talk a little bit about industry analysis. And it is imperative, if you're going to enter a given industry, that you understand the basic fundamental principles of the structure of each industry and the sub-industries. And this is important. So first of all, you got to understand the attractiveness of the different industries, right? Should you actually enter it or not? Specific industry structures affect the kinds of competitors in those structures and what is the current and future profitability like. Furthermore, understanding industry attractiveness gives a firm the opportunity to change between industries or modify the current industry to give them better profitability. Now, I'll give you an example of someone that I know, an entrepreneur that I've consulted with, who never does an industry analysis and just goes right in. So this gentleman's idea is to start a trucking business. Okay? Now, trucking is a very unique business because of what we call a volume industry. And volume industry means that you need huge economies of scale in order to make profitability. So if you want to be a trucker or own a trucking business, you need like a fleet of trucks. You need dozens, maybe hundreds of trucks. Think about why that is. Well, you need to make sure, first of all, that if you have 100 trucks, you could probably purchase or pay a couple of mechanics to work on all of those trucks, maybe 2 or 3 or whatever it is. You'd have a single bookkeeper, a single finance person, right? And when you have 100 trucks, you can negotiate preferential fuel prices with fueling stations. You can get bigger contracts with huge companies like Costco, right? And so you can generate a greater chance that all of your trucks will be gainfully employed at all times. Now, this gentleman wants to start a trucking business with only 1 truck because that's all he has. He doesn't have the capital requirements. He will always be at a competitive disadvantage versus the big trucking companies because with 1 truck, he needs to pay a mechanic contract work to do repairs on the truck, which is going to be at a higher rate than having a salaried mechanic work on his trucks. He cannot negotiate preferential fuel rates with gas stations. He cannot ensure that all of his trucks are gainfully employed at all times because he's only 1 driver and in 1 truck. So his costs per mile driving that truck will be much higher than the large trucking companies. And therefore, he will be at a continued, sustained competitive disadvantage with his competitors until he can raise enough capital to buy more trucks. But that's a problem because his profitability off 1 truck is already going to be much lower than companies that have hundreds of trucks at their disposal. If he would just do his industry analysis, he may take a different approach. He may enter a different industry, right? So again, your general attractiveness factors, of course, are profitability. Given the amount of time, effort, and inventory that I have to get to be in this industry, what profitability rate can I enjoy or count on? And what is the potential for growth in that industry? Is the industry full of competitors already, and so my room as a new competitor would be kind of limited? Or is there really not much new demand for that product or service, right? That's important to think about. And there's some other subjective ones too, right? So for example, some industries are very technologically intense. So you better be pretty good with computers and the like if you're going to enter that industry. If you hate computers, probably don't enter a firm like IT services, right? Maybe enter something else. Environmental friendliness. If you care about the environment, you might not go into heavy manufacturing or petrochemicals. You might go into a service-based industry. Capital intensiveness. How much financial capital do you need to have or invest in order to make a profit? Again, things like trucking require huge upfront capital investments just to get off the ground. If you don't have the money, probably you shouldn't go into trucking. Now, what is the demand cycle, right? Is it a consistent or cyclical demand cycle, i.e., every week I can count on 5 orders and this much revenue, or is it totally unpredictable? I had a friend that used to work in, he owned a printing business, so printing books and promotional materials and things like that, and he said it drove him nuts, and this is why I got out, because the demand was totally unpredictable. He said he could get one day with 100 orders and he'd be working overtime all the time to try to finish the order, and then he'd get 2 weeks with no orders at all. It was maddening. Cash flow patterns. Okay. What kind of income are you going to generate? How much of that do you have to spend on inventory? Things like that. Those are all important to consider. And again, different kinds of industries can give you vastly different profitability. One of the most profitable industries that you can go into is toiletry and cosmetics. Pet food is also up there. Okay, toiletry and cosmetics are generating around 30 to 40% profitability. Soft drinks, that's another very, very profitable business. You're basically putting flavored water in a can or a bottle or in a soda fountain. Again, huge capital requirements to start making that money. But if you have the capital requirements, the profitability is pretty good. Other kinds of industries like retail have a much lower rate of profitability. Again, you think about it. You have to have huge inventories on hand in order to sell them, and of course keeping inventory is a costly proposition. Furthermore, I talked about segmentation in the last video a little bit, and this is another reason why segmentation is important. It's not enough to know which industry you want to go into. Remember we talked about boundary already? So it's not enough to know which boundary, which industry you want to go into, but which specific segment of the industry you wish to enter. Think about for a second cars. You want to go in the automobile industry in some way, right? Well, which specific segment is important? If you wanted to go into the automobile manufacturing piece, you would enjoy a profitability rate of about 0.2%. Not much, okay? Whereas if you wanted to go into parts wholesaling of automobile parts, you could enjoy about a 20% rate of profitability. Okay, that's one of the highest. Car financing is a 17% rate of profitability. Rental vehicles is about 0.5% profitability. So understanding specifically within the automobile industry which sub-segment you'd like to enter is very, very important. So what we're going to do in the next video, should be a relatively short video, is we're going to talk about general industry structure and profitability. This is almost maybe more from an economics side, so it should be a nice review for those of you that had economics, and an interesting information session for those of you that have not. So I'm looking forward to seeing you then.